In the beginning, there was nothing, only emptiness. Out of this emptiness, known as chaos, emerged three immortal beings: the lovely earth called Gaia, the dark underworld known as Tartarus, and the handsome spirit of love called Eros, whose presence allowed much of creation to occur. Gaia, without any partner, gave birth to Uranus, the starry evening sky. All alone, Gaia also gave birth to the mountains and sea. In time, Gaia took Uranus to be her husband, and together they birthed a generation of powerful beings. First, Gaia gave birth to a triplet set of 100-handed giants. Each giant had 50 heads and 100 powerful arms. Uranus, who was fearful of his children's incredible strength, banished them to Tartarus, where they were bound in chains and kept in the dank darkness of the underworld's caverns. Soon, Gaia gave birth to another set of triplets. This time, the children were born in the figure of gods, but each had only one large eye set in the middle of his forehead. These three children were the first Cyclopes, an incredibly talented group of craftsmen. Uranus feared their potential power and, just as he had done with his other sons, cast them deep within Gaia's body to join their brothers in the confines of the underworld. Deep in the underworld, the 6 sons grew to hate their father. Gaia was outraged by her husband's actions, and she secretly plotted for the day she could take her revenge on him and free her captive sons. The next immortal children born to Gaia and Uranus were the 12 Titans. They and their children became the oldest generation of Greek gods. The females were Mnemosyne, Thetis, Theia, Phoebe, Rhea, and Themis. The males were Oceanus, Hyperion, Coeus, Creus, Iapetus, and Cronos. Once her Titan children were of age, Gaia decided the time had finally arrived for her to take action against Uranus. From deep within her own soil, she took a large piece of flint and shaped it into a huge stone blade with the edge of a razor. "Children," she announced while Uranus was away, "you know I have long hated your father's wicked ways. If one of you is strong enough, we now have this tool that can end his rule. Which of you will lead us in removing him from power?" The Titans grew pale at the idea of attacking all-powerful Uranus, until Cronos, the youngest, stepped forward. "I will help you, Mother," he announced. "You know I have nothing but hate in my heart for him, and I ache to bring justice to our older brothers who have been unjustly imprisoned for far too long." Cronos's courage emboldened the others, and a plan was set. That evening, when Uranus returned and went to lie beside his wife, he didn't know that Cronos hid nearby with the sharpened edge of the blade poised in the air. Quicker than thought, Cronos lunged and grabbed Uranus in his mighty hands. Slicing and slicing again, Cronos mutilated his father's body, deaf to the panicked screams of Uranus. Immortality prevented Uranus from being killed, but he was not protected from the excruciating pain of not only the physical distress, but also the knowledge that his reign of power was at its end. Once Uranus's rule was ended, Cronos's bravery was celebrated by his family. He claimed his destiny and took control of the world. Part 2. After the defeat of Uranus, Cronos became ruler of the world. His family had expected his first action to be the release of his imprisoned brothers, the Cyclopes and the 100-handed giants. Cronos, however, feared their potential power, just as his father had before him, and decided to leave his uncles chained in Tartarus. Gaia was appalled by her son's cruelty and unforeseen selfishness. Though she was powerful to overrule him, she took joy in issuing a prophecy, informing him that he would someday be overthrown by his own child, just as he had overthrown his own father, Uranus. "That will never happen," Cronos vowed, "because I can outwit the fates. If I never have children, I can never be overthrown." In time, though, Cronos fell in love with his fair sister Rhea, and from their union she birthed the first of their children, a beautiful daughter named Hestia. Rhea, an earth goddess like her mother, was overjoyed by the arrival of her daughter. Tenderly, she wrapped the infant in cloth and brought the bundle of joy to meet her father. As Cronos reached out his arms to hold his child, his mother's prophecy rang in his ears. Could this pink-cheeked baby grow to overthrow him? He couldn't take that chance. He smiled a wide, wicked grin, and without a word or warning, opened his gigantic mouth and swallowed Hestia in one large gulp. Rhea could not believe her horrified eyes, and Cronos left his stunned wife, walking out of the room without saying a word. As time passed, Rhea gave birth to 3 more children, the daughters Demeter and Hera, and a fine son named Hades. With each birth, Rhea lovingly wrapped the child in soft cloth before bringing the bundle to Cronos' throne. Each time she prayed that Cronos would share in her joy, but each time the same painful action was repeated. Cronos would pretend to welcome the child into the family, yet once he held the child in his strong arms, the prophecy would destroy any thoughts of decency. Instead of love, his veins surged with fear, and he'd swallow each infant whole. By the time Rhea was ready to birth her fifth child, she was frantic with fright. She could no longer stand by and allow another child to be trapped within the bowels of Kronos. Rhea met with Gaia, who was also furious with Kronos over the treatment of her sons and grandchildren, and the two women set a plan. When the fifth child, a healthy son named Poseidon, was born, Gaia took the infant to a remote island where he was to be raised by sea goddesses. Back at the palace, Rhea took a foal, a baby horse, and awkwardly wrapped the animal in an infant's blanket. Rhea presented this child to her husband, and he, without questioning the appearance of the newborn, smiled, allowing the wicked grin to overtake his face, and he swallowed the foal whole. As usual, he left the room without speaking to his wife, but she rejoiced inwardly, realizing how her plan had deceived her husband. For the birth of their sixth child, Rhea conspired again with her mother to fool Kronos and protect the baby. This time, an infant boy was born with a radiant glow to his skin, unlike anything anyone had seen before. They named him Zeus, the Shining One, and his grandmother concealed the child, taking him into a deep cave where his cries could not be heard. At the palace, Rhea was frantic, searching to find another object that would fool her husband. Running out of time, she grabbed a large stone about the size and weight of the infant Zeus. She wrapped it tightly in binding cloth and brought it to her husband's side. As expected, Kronos took the bundle, pretending to hold it lovingly, before abruptly shoving it into his mouth. Rhea shed no tears as her husband left the room. She knew her children would be avenged, even if she had to be patient in waiting for that fateful day. With Gaia's help, Poseidon and Zeus remained hidden and protected. They came of age, and when the time was right, they agreed to help fulfill the prophecy that would overthrow Kronos. First, Zeus and Gaia met with Metis, the daughter of the Titans Oceanus and Tethys, because she was known to be the wisest of the goddesses. Metis mixed a drugged drink that would force Kronos' stomach to empty its contents, and she placed the vial in Zeus's shining hand. Back at the palace, Rhea slipped the poison into Kronos' drink. She smiled wryly as he swallowed the liquid and almost immediately doubled over in pain, clutching the fleecy rug on the floor as he vomited up everything in his stomach, including his 4 immortal children, who were now grown and filled with hatred for their father. Standing before their father, the 4 immortals were joined by Poseidon and Zeus, who demanded that Kronos surrender his power. Slowly standing on shaky legs, Kronos glared at his wife and children. "Never," he screamed as he staggered out of the room. War was declared. Kronos enlisted the support of his Titan brothers and sisters, many of whom fought against the young upstarts. For 10 years, the war raged, as both sides were so evenly matched. Finally, Gaia, who had tried to stay out of the war that pitted most of her children against her grandchildren, decided enough was enough. If Zeus and his siblings would agree to free their uncles, the 100-handed giants and the Cyclopes, Gaia told them they could win the war. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were grateful for their grandmother's help and eagerly agreed to make the dangerous journey to help their uncles. Down deep into Tartarus they descended. The Cyclopes were so thankful for their release, they not only immediately agreed to help fight in the war, but also gifted the 3 young gods with glorious tools. To Zeus, they gave the gift of thunder and invincible lightning bolts, securing his ability to rule both the immortal and immortal worlds with unbreakable authority. To Poseidon, they gave a magical trident, a 3-speared tool that would allow him to control all of the waters of the world. And to Hades, they gave a helmet of invisibility, allowing him to hide his identity whenever he chose to do so. Once back in the land of sunlight, the gods and their uncles unleashed a brutal assault on the Titans. Zeus climbed atop Mount Olympus and hurled lightning bolt after lightning bolt upon Kronos and the Titans. The 100-handed giants ripped mountaintops apart and threw thousands of boulders upon their enemies. The assault was unparalleled, and the Titans were not prepared. They were forced to retreat to the lands of Tartarus. There, the Cyclopes were waiting, and one by one lashed the Titans with unbreakable chains, locking them in the underground prison, Kronos among them. Now that peace had been restored to the earth, the gods made sure the region of Tartarus would be an inescapable prison. Poseidon surrounded it with a tall bronze wall, and Zeus asked the 100-handed giants if they would be willing to serve as the guards of Tartarus. Then the gods drew lots to determine their realms. Zeus won the sky, Poseidon took the sea, and Hades was given the underworld. Zeus's rule brought peace and order to the immortal world, and he taught humans to treat each other fairly. People who disrespected the gods or each other were punished by Zeus, often in obvious and public ways. Poseidon's powerful trident allowed him to create squalls and even earthquakes, but he also taught mortals how to train horses and build ships. Hades taught humans to have respect for the dead and to conduct proper funeral ceremonies that would allow souls to pass into Elysium, the Greek equivalent of heaven. Eventually, Zeus married his sister Hera, the goddess of marriage and childbirth. Hestia became the guardian of the home and taught mortals how to build houses. And Demeter became the goddess of grain, teaching mankind how to plant and reap a harvest. The Titans were silenced, and the rule of the gods had begun.